Hi everyone, this is Chapter 5, Adlerian Therapy for Counseling 4500. Let's start with the introduction. Major contributor of psychodynamic approach, which again, remember, that means Freudian. Typically, Freudian is also known as psychodynamic or psychoanalytic. So that means that this is a student of Freud. So after 10 years with Freud, they parted ways, and the reason why usually is because his students basically either wanted to expand or disagreed with some of the things that Freud had believed in. So he left the Vienna Psychoanalytic Society and founded the Society for Individual Psychology. Freud saw Adler as a deserter. There are other deserters as well. They're all known as the Neo-Freudians. There's Karen Horney, Eric Fromm, and Harry Stack Sullivan. So for this, they believed in relational, social, and cultural factors that were greatest factors in forming a personality. So you'll start to see as we go through this chapter a shift away from what Freud had believed in. Moved away from the deterministic point of view to a teleological or goal-oriented view of human nature. So let's revisit that really quickly. Remember, Freud was a determinist perspective, or had a deterministic perspective, which basically means that your personality was determined pretty much when you're younger. So usually for him, it's between birth and 6 or 12 years old. So we're moving away from that into a goal-oriented view of human nature. So what that means is if you have something that you want to achieve, we believe that you can achieve it. Okay, so where we have come from is not as important as where we are striving to go. Humans are creators and creations of their own lives. So what that is saying is, if you do want change in your life in your future, let's say as an adult, the Neo-Freudians pretty much believe that you could do that. People are moving towards and expressing their selected goals. So let's talk a little bit about the view of human nature with Adler. Believed that Freud was extremely narrow in his emphasis on biological and instinctual determination. So remember we talked about drive, right? These things that propel us. So they said, well, that might be part of it, but that's not all there is. So the first 6 years of life is when people form an approach to life. Individuals' interpretations of early events continue to influence a person's present behavior. So right here, what they're saying is that they still believe that family, the community around you, basically influence how you see the world, right? But they also believe that people are influenced by social relatedness, so again, the community, society, rather than just the sexual urges that Freud was talking about. Behavior is purposeful and goal-directed. So when we do the things that we do, we basically are doing it because we have goals in our lives that we want, or things that we want to have or achieve. Consciousness more than unconsciousness is a focus of therapy. So if you know what you want to do, you're aware of it, right? So then it's really about being aware of what you want and then trying to go for those things. Choice and responsibility. So you do have a choice. You can choose to do something or not to do something, right? But whatever you do, you have to own up to the fact that you decided to do it. Okay, so even when you decide that you're not doing anything, that is still a choice. And if you're unhappy with that, you need to take responsibility because you chose to not do anything. So again, another thing is that we're talking about is the meaning in life. So if you're going to have goals, so let's hope that you figure out what the purpose of your life is all about. Striving for success, completion, and perfection. So this is something that you'll also see when you hear people who study, let's say, child development. They talk about these times where people will have to realize if the goals that they have or the decisions that they're going to make are good or not, right? And then from there decide where they're going to go next. So one of the major parts of that then is the feeling of being inferior, or the inferiority feelings, a condition of all people as a source of all human striving. So remember we talked a little bit about in Freud, like these instinctual drives, right? Like these things are inside us that push us forward. Well, what Adler is talking about is when you don't feel like you know something very well, or you don't feel like you're a master of it, like you're feeling inferior, that actually drives you then to master it. Okay, so it can be a source of creativity. It motivates us to strive for mastery, success, and completion. Human behavior is not based on heredity and environment, not black and white, but we are able to also interpret, influence, and also create the events that are going on in our lives. So, again, just really quickly to reemphasize here is, if something is a challenge for you, we hope that you try to then go for it and then become a master of it. We're focusing on internal determinants of behavior, such as your values, your beliefs, your attitudes, your goals, your interests, and also your perception of what the world is all about or the reality. Adler is known as being father of the holistic, which basically means like everything. Okay, so holistic means like who you are as a person, your family, your history, your education, your work, all those things we want to consider as one thing of who you are. The social, the goal oriented, systemic. Systemic means that there are different parts, right? In a community, there's actually different parts, and you, as part of the community, play a specific part as well. And then also humanistic, which is basically the person who you are. We also believe that you're a good person, and that we hope that you're doing things for the good of society. Subjective perception of reality. So, one of the first things I want to explain is the word subjective. Usually you'll hear the word subjective and objective. Subjective is kind of each individual's perspective or how they see the world, okay, or that person's view or opinion, okay. So what we're talking about here is each person's view of what reality is. It is phenomenological. How people perceive the world is a subjective reality. The individual's perceptions, their thoughts, their feelings, their values, their beliefs, their convictions, and then their conclusions. Objective reality is less important than how we interpret the reality and the means and the meanings that we attach to what we experience. So even though we might have seen something happen this way, like let's say you did not do very well on a test, right? That's the objective perspective or the objective reality. But how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel worthless? Or does it motivate you? And what they're saying is that subjective perception of reality is much more important than the reality of it. Okay, unity and patterns of human personality. Adler is known as individual psychology, unity and indivisibility of the person at the most basic parts of a person. Understanding the whole person in the context of his or her or their life. So remember we were talking a little bit before about the holistic perspective, right? So we want to know who this whole person is, how all the dimensions of that person are interconnected components, because one of them probably will affect the other. Like let's say your love life will probably affect your work life, which will also affect your personal life or your free time or your leisure. All those things are connected in one way or another. How all these components work together to strive for the goal. So again, holistic concept, we cannot be understood in parts. We can be understood as a relationship of the family, the culture, the school, and the work. Think about the time where you had a really bad time with a fight with your loved one. Did it kind of affect how you were doing at work? Or could you concentrate on school, right? So this holistic perspective means that, when one thing is affected, all the other connected components also probably will be affected as well. All right, behavior as purposeful and goal-oriented. All human behavior has a purpose. We can only think, feel, and act in relations to our goals. Makes sense, right? Interested in the future, but does not ignore the past. So again, we do acknowledge what has happened when we're younger, but it doesn't mean that that's it, right? We are still also, thinking about what's going to happen in the future. What can we achieve? Philosopher Hans Wachinger, people live by fictions, views of how the world should be. So in this sense, what they're saying is that, we think this is how life should be, and then we try to live it that way, right? So one of the key terms in Adler or Adlerian therapy is fictional finalism. So fictional finalism is an imagined life goal that guides a person's behavior. It's changed to guiding self-ideal or goals of perfection. In early life, we imagine what it might be like if we were successful, complete, whole, or perfect. So I'll give you an example. I remember very clearly one of my friends in the second grade, we were waiting, I think we were in recess, and we were just, hanging out, and she had said, for the future, by the time I am 22, I will have graduated from medical school. I will be a doctor, I'll be a brain surgeon. And then by 25, I will meet the man of my dreams. We will get married. And by the time I'm 28, I'm going to have 2 kids, and all that stuff, right? So final or fictional finalism doesn't mean that you have to do it, but because you had set these goals for you, most likely it's going to really influence how you're going to live your life in the future, right? So for my friend, did she become a brain surgeon? She did not become a brain surgeon. But did she get married and have a couple of kids? She definitely did. Is she happy? I believe so. I hung out with her recently and she said that she was. And I even told her that I was going to tell this story to this class because I will always remember. Because when I was in the second, I was like, whoa, girl, you have everything set for yourself. This is amazing. And I wish that I had also had that stuff. I see the world a little bit differently compared to her. So when I heard that, it stuck with me because I was like, wow, she really knows what she wants. Now looking at it, decades and decades and decades later, it's kind of cool that she got some of the things, and that's fine too, because she's a happy person now. All right, striving for significance and superiority. So remember, we heard the word inferior before. Now we're going to think about the word superior. So inferior feelings and striving for perfection are 2 sides of the same coin. If you think about it, right? If one, you feel not so great about like success of something, you kind of probably want to feel like you're going to want to achieve it or master those things. So that becomes like the same coin, just 2 different sides of it. The moment we feel inferior, we are pulled by the need to reach superiority, not defined as a feeling, being better than others. So this is not competition with other people. This is more about your own self. Let's hope. All right, lifestyle. When we develop a life goal, we are matching up your core beliefs and assumptions. This helps us organize our realities and gives it meaning, or basically how you live your lifestyle. And lifestyle is defined as connecting themes and rules of interaction that give meanings to our actions. Our view, or our unique way of thinking, acting, feeling, living, and striving towards long-term goals is basically what we're talking about here, right? So how do you see the world? Are you one of those people that, want to travel a lot, let's say, learn about other people, or would you rather work and then, focus on your family? Whatever it is, we're hoping that you're learning how to develop your lifestyle. People are proactive rather than reactive. So here are these 2 words that are also very connected. Proactive is when you're going to do things before it happens, okay? So for example, I think the best example would be like a fire drill, right? There's no fire, but we practice beforehand just in case it happens so that we know what to do. Reactive is there's already fire, so let's see what happens. What are you going to do, right? And another common example when it comes to that will be in the health field, which is, let's say, diabetes, right? You want to eat healthier, exercise, and do all the things so that, let's say, you don't get diabetes. Whereas some people are going to wait until they get diabetes, and then they're going to go, okay, maybe I should eat a little bit better now or exercise a little bit more. But again, that can be very, very hard. Imagine if you've never practiced getting out of a building and there's a fire. You might panic. You might try to go get to the elevator when you really should be going down the stairs, right? So these are things where we're talking about in Adler is, let's be proactive about our lives rather than reactive about our lives. Faulty interpretations may also lead to mistaken notions in our logic, which creates imbalance in our thinking. So that's what it's saying right there is, we want to make sure that you're aware of what's going on, know the correct way to do things so that you don't do the things incorrectly when the time is there. Once we are aware of faulty interpretations, we can choose to modify them and then make changes if you want. We are consciously creating a new style of living. All right, now let's talk about social interest and community feeling. Social interest is defined as being concerned about others as one is about oneself. So it's about making sure that our society, the people around us in our community, are also doing well as too. The ability to cooperate and to contribute. We are present enough to make meaningful futures. We can give and we can take. We develop our capacity for contributing to the welfare of others and striving for the betterment of humanity. It begins when we are children, when we get a sense of belonging in society. So if you listen to all these things, right, it's about taking care of yourself, but then also taking care of the people around you as well. Because without everyone around us, we might not necessarily have the peace, the calm, the stability that we need to live our lives into like old age, right? If it's very dangerous or whatever, everyone's out for just themselves, it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge to be happy, to, you know, meet people and all that other stuff, which is what they're saying is take care of yourself, but also learn how to take care of your neighbors as well. Adler believes social interest is innate but needs to be learned, developed, and used. So innate basically means it's inside of you. It's already there. It's automatic. So he's saying is that you do want to be kind to your community. That's part of who everyone is, right? But sometimes we don't know how to do that, so we need to learn how to do it, practice it, so that it becomes even more familiar. I'll give you an example. I don't know if this happened to you in high school or not, but did you go and pick up trash at the beach? Or let's say, did you go to a senior home and then read books or talk to senior people or do some community type stuff like that? I know that I did in high school. It was extracurricular activities. And so that is kind of teaching you how and exposing you to see how society is. There are people who are lonely, let's say, who need company. So that might be the seniors. And so you might go there and then you start talking to them, reading books or, you know, doing activities with them, or learning about pollution and about trash and all that stuff, and then learning how to clean it up, right? So this is what the sense of social interest and the community feeling is talking about. He also talks about seeing with the eyes of another person. That's kind of like coded for empathy, right? Or basically, that's what empathy means. To hear with the ears of another, same thing, and to feel with the heart of another. So that we understand that although we might see it this way, we don't necessarily know how other people see it. But when we do learn about it, is to go, oh, you know, that is going to be a challenge. So how would we all be able to work together to achieve that thing? People express social interest through social activities and also mutual respect. So in this image, if you look at it right here, there's actually an app on the phone where basically, let's say a person has a visual impairment, right? And they need someone to read something to them that they cannot read at the moment. So the app will go on, and then there are all these people who volunteer to do it. And then you might, you know, one day just get a phone call. And then the phone call or the video phone call will be like, hey, can you tell me what color this outfit is? Because I need to get ready for work and I can't figure out what color this is, right? So then the camera will show the outfit and you can say, oh, that shirt is black, right? And then he's like, oh, okay, thank you. And that's it. So it's kind of like helping each other, even though it might be around the world. I believe that I had the phone call once and it was someone in Thailand. So this was years ago. So obviously, I mean, I think things have changed, and also other technologies are coming around where that's going to happen, where you don't necessarily actually need other people. But you know, I really, really appreciated this one because it really made me feel like I'm part of this world that we exist in. All right, community feeling. Feeling of being connected to all humanity, past, present, and future, making the world a better place. Those who lack this community feeling become discouraged and end up in the useless side of life. Security, acceptance, and worthiness are found within the family and the society. Again, we hear about that. And many problems that we feel are related to the fear of not being accepted by groups we value. Then suddenly we have all these anxieties. We want to be part of it, but why are we not part of it? Right? Adler believes that we all must master 3 universal tasks, which is to build friendships, which is a social task, establish intimacy, which is a love marriage task, and then also contributing to society, which is your occupational task. So I think that if you think about it, we break it down, that's pretty much almost every society there is in the world as well, right? But, you know, in America, for sure, you know, we want to make sure that you have friends, that you have loved ones that you're intimate with. It doesn't necessarily have to be sexual, but like, you know, to be vulnerable with someone and to help each other and love each other. And then also to be a member of society. So this is why you'll hear people go, you know, you need to vote so that you participate and make a decision in your community and how things are run. Requires us to develop friendships, belonging, contributions, self-worth, and cooperation. And you'll think about like the word altruistic, which is a very common word when it's and is often related to Adler, is to help other people without expecting help back at you. It's not like a favor, right? Instead, we do help each other because we want to make sure that we all are lifted up. All right, this is the end of the first part of the SLAP chapter.